Hello, this is Tatiana Rodriguez. I hope you guys are all doing well. It's been quite a hectic semester for me, but as you can see, I have chosen Mishka Henner for my artist presentation. And I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anything. I was unfamiliar with a couple of the names listed on, the galleries and whatnot. But yeah, here we go. So who is Mishka Henner and what does he create? He was born in 1976 in Belgium. He is currently living in the UK and is a visual artist, obviously. He focuses on subjects of cultural and geopolitical interest, and he, focuses on these topics through books, films, photos, and sculpture works as well. So his work is pretty varied. He also reflects on industrial infrastructures, which we'll see in a second. And he also has a master's degree from the Goldsmith College in London. So his work has been shown in a lot of places. I didn't want to list them all because it would take up this whole slide. A couple are the Museum of Modern Art, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Centre Pompidou in Paris, and a whole bunch of other big name places. He also has won the Infinity Award from the International Center of Photography, and he was shortlisted for the Dutch Bourse Photography Prize and the Prix Pritchett for a couple of his work as well. So in terms of style and movement, he seems to have sort of created his own interpretation of documentary photography, which is one of the cool things about documentary is each person kind of interprets it in a different way. And I mean, you could see that from each of our assignments as well. So in a lot of his work, he creates shots that highlight certain truths about things that aren't really typically considered. For example, this image on the right here is from a series called Dutch Landscapes, which uses aerial shots that he captured on Google Earth to spoof Dutch old master landscape painting. This was meant to highlight the way the Dutch center different locations on Google Earth. This could be, I guess, military or certain industrial sectors that they don't want people to be spying on from satellites. And it creates like this really cool abstract, like polygonal image that contrasts with the landscape. And I find them all really fascinating. Sorry about that. This is another series he's done using images on Google Earth. It is called Feedlots. It documents multiple feedlots that he found on Google Earth, many of which are from Texas. And through this process of creating these, he did a lot of research in the meat industry and came to understand that on a whole new level, probably in a lot of ways that we don't really think of from a consumer level. So these images create a almost reflection on the process involved in creating the meat industry and, keeping it running. And these crazy colors, he said, was from the waste management and refinement of like food and, obviously waste of the cows, or even, the waste from killing the cows, etc. There are so many different levels to this process, and he created these amazing looking pictures here. And on his website, you can even find some details where it zooms in on some of these really vibrant colors that you can find in these sites. Another thing he has done was, make statements, obviously in the last two as well, where he didn't really intend to. He claims that he's not intending to make any political statements, but there are many images that can be very profound and impactful to the viewer. This here is a series which he did capturing, news workers and whatnot with their eyes closed, kind of in between statements. And on one of the articles I read, he said that he captured them, saying or not saying something when they were trying to say something. And it's kind of like this duality between news anchors. We all see them just talking, and here, as he says in one of the interviews I read, he sort of puts them to sleep. He gives them a break from all of the talking about everything going on. So one thing he did, which really sort of got on people's nerves, I guess would be the best way to say it. There were many critics and viewers alike that all, had something to say, especially about this series, which I noticed. It is a photo book named Les Américains, I believe is how you pronounce it. He created it in 2012 and explored the conceptual ideas of appropriation and erasure. So as you can see, he has these images and they are actually from another photographer or artist. And he, in Canal Street, as you can see, cut out a lot of the image. And there was some really cool abstractions of these images where, some of them were a photo of the side of the street, for example, and he cut out everything but like the different objects on the side of the street. And it created this sort of like limbo space where you could see trash cans and street signs and mailboxes, and they're all just kind of floating around there, but almost what the image is supposed to be. So it's these cool abstractions that I found really interesting in this series. And this book was accused by many critics and viewers as a joke or an insult to the beauty of photography and the Americans. And we aren't really sure exactly what he was trying to say here, but he was experimenting with these conceptual ideas of appropriation and what erasure does to it. Is it actually appropriation if the image is so altered, and I found this series really interesting. So through his process, he, using found images and creating his own photos out of them, he is, as Selena Oakes claims, sort of a jack of all trades. She says that he transports the virtual back to reality through physical entities with his work. She also talks about how he utilizes, the many leaks on the internet and the internet's inherent accessibility to people to create some very interesting abstractions and just gorgeous landscapes and satellite photos. And it's really fascinating. So he sort of takes the idea of the internet and utilizes its what someone called weaknesses to create these, very profound photos. So my interpretation is that even without the intention to do so, Mishka Henner creates some really big statement photos. These photos reflect on many different ideas: consumerism, surveillance. The process of the meat industry is definitely something that has been up in the air. People arguing the morality of it or humanity of it, what have you. And also just sort of like not exposing, but kind of exposing like certain big name companies, especially in, the Feeders series. And he, sort of analyzes these different cultural, political, and economical views and gives us a different way of looking at them. I think that his work is very fascinating. Some of his photos were gorgeous to me. And I'm very thankful that I had the chance to look into him. It was very interesting. And here are my sources. I did get a lot of sources or references, I guess you would say, from his website. And I read up on some interviews and reviews on his work as well. So yeah, that's all. Thank you guys for watching. Take care.